Operation Hammersley was one of the most significant Australian operations in the Vietnam War, conducted between 10 February and 9 March 1970 in Phuoc Tuy Province, South Vietnam, with the main objective of disrupting Viet Cong activities in the Long Hai Hills, a region that had long been regarded as a safe haven and fortress for Communist forces. The operation was spearheaded by the 6th Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, 6 RAR, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel David Butler, and was supported by Centurion tanks of the 1st Armored Regiment, artillery from the 4th Field Regiment, engineers, signals units, and air support from the Royal Australian Air Force's No. 9 Squadron, which provided Iroquois helicopters for troop transport, medical evacuation, and resupply. South Vietnamese regional and popular forces also participated, though the bulk of the fighting fell on the Australians. The Long Hai Hills were strategically important for the Viet Cong, in particular the D445 Battalion, as they offered natural protection due to their rocky slopes, thick vegetation, and complex cave systems, while also being close enough to the main Australian base at Nui Dat and to coastal villages to serve as a springboard for attacks. The area was heavily fortified with bunkers, tunnel systems, and supply caches, and was notorious for being saturated with mines and booby traps laid over years of conflict. The Viet Cong not only used standard Soviet and Chinese supplied mines, but also recycled unexploded American bombs and artillery shells, turning them into improvised devices. This created a deadly environment where even cautious movement could result in heavy casualties. The operation began with aggressive infantry sweeps, supported by tanks and artillery barrages to clear the hills and force the enemy out of their defensive positions. The Centurion tanks, with their firepower and ability to demolish bunkers, played a decisive role in breaking through entrenched positions that otherwise would have cost the infantry heavy losses. Artillery units maintained a constant bombardment of suspected Viet Cong positions, while airstrikes were called in to target cave entrances and supply areas. Despite this overwhelming firepower, the Australians faced determined resistance in the form of sniper fire, harassing mortar attacks, and frequent ambushes. The Viet Cong rarely committed to large-scale engagements, preferring to inflict casualties through mines and sudden strikes before melting back into the terrain. One of the defining characteristics of Operation Hammersley was the toll exacted by mines. More than half of all Australian casualties during the operation were caused by these hidden devices. Patrols frequently encountered minefields so dense that movement became very slow and dangerous, requiring the constant work of combat engineers to clear safe paths. In some cases, advancing units were forced to halt for hours to allow engineers to painstakingly sweep areas with detectors. Despite these efforts, several soldiers were killed or severely wounded, making the mines the greatest single danger of the operation. Over the course of nearly a month, the Australians destroyed hundreds of bunkers, uncovered large medical stations, seized or demolished tons of rice and ammunition, and denied the Viet Cong many of their bases in the Long Hai Hills. The D445 Battalion, which had long dominated the area, was forced to retreat and temporarily abandon its stronghold. For a time, this success reduced the threat of rocket and mortar attacks against nearby towns, villages, and the Nui Dat base. However, the temporary nature of such operations soon became apparent. Once the Australians withdrew, the Viet Cong gradually returned, rebuilding some of their facilities and resuming guerrilla activities, albeit with a reduced effectiveness in the short term. Operation Hammersley is remembered as both a tactical success and a sobering reminder of the limitations of conventional military power in Vietnam. The Australians demonstrated excellent coordination between infantry, armor, artillery, and air assets, showcasing their ability to adapt to challenging terrain and a resourceful enemy. Yet the high number of casualties, particularly from mines, underscored the difficulty of fighting an enemy that relied not only on direct combat, but also on exploiting the environment itself as a weapon. The bravery and resilience of the Australian troops, who continued their mission despite constant danger, is a lasting aspect of the operation's legacy. For many veterans, Hammersley symbolized the harsh realities of the war. victories won at great cost, in battles that often had only temporary results in a conflict defined by endurance and attrition, rather than decisive engagements.